guys, it's Cory from CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, and I just saw Aquaman. Written by David Leslie Johnson-McGoldrick, Will Beal, Geoff Johns, James Wan, Will Beal, and original story created by Mort, Weisinger, and Paul Norris, directed by James Wan. This one I was really excited about. I had been talking for years now, since the Parkway Theater back in Baltimore opened, that I wanted to see something there. What was playing on the main screen was Aquaman, which is why I'm doing this review right now. I don't know if I would have seen it otherwise, but the theater was the star of the show here. The Parkway is now 102 years old. It was a Lowe's theater for a long time in Baltimore. And they did this incredible thing where they basically... It had sort of been stripped a little bit of its glory throughout the years. It was, a church, and there was stores in the space and stuff like that. There was a long time in between when it was originally a theater and now when it's a theater again. And I just loved the fact that they took these little tiny touches of something that had been decaying a little bit, but they made it beautiful in its own way. And I've posting all these pictures up here that I took from the day, and it's just really an incredible place to go see a picture. If you are in Baltimore, or if you're going to visit Baltimore, I would definitely take the time to see a movie in the Parkway Theater 1, because it is well worth the time. On to Aquaman. This is a humongous disaster of epic proportions. I would get into describing the plot, but the people who wrote the movie didn't spend the time to do that, so why should I? This is a new low for DC. And I'm a big superhero guy. I like these movies. I'm not somebody who wants to be unnecessarily terrible to movies or people who make them, because I know how incredibly tough it is, and I know that it's not an easy thing to A, make a movie that actually works, and B, make a movie that's good. It takes real talent. And going into this movie, I thought James Wan had it. I was, generally speaking, if you asked if I liked him walking into this movie, I would have said yes. Leaving this movie, he's got to spend some time in movie jail. I mean, I know he won't, because Aquaman made all the monies, but this was... the people who were responsible for the flaws in this movie need to be punished and flogged in the public square, because this is auto-tune in music. This is a new low. This should not be allowed to be put out there as art on the studio level. It's shockingly bad. To start with, I liked Jason Momoa. He looked really good compared to everyone else in this movie. But that being said, I don't think he's not The Rock. He's not the new Rock. He's third on the call sheet at best in a better movie. Amber Heard, I have no idea why she's even in this movie. It's basically like somebody at Warner Brothers decided that it was weird to have a crush on Ariel from The Little Mermaid. So let's make a real-life version of that, so we don't have to worry about this, is it weird to have a crush on a cartoon character thing? Let's just shove her into Aquaman. The screenplay for this movie, so David Leslie, Johnson, McGoldrick, and Will Beal, it looked like they woke up the day before this movie was due and said, oh no, we have an Aquaman movie due. It is... You have a certain amount of understanding that in a movie like this, there's going to be those one-liners and the, off remarks, and, the story doesn't really matter, and it's not supposed to be Shakespeare and everything like that. But this was so comically bad that the only times I laughed in the entire course of the movie was when I was laughing at how terrible the writing was. There was never a line where I laughed because, it was a really catchy little pun. No, it was really The fact that, and I think this is the overall thing that really bothers me the most about Aquaman. There were so many parts during I mean, this isn't just something that happens over a weekend. It's not like you gave James Wan hundreds of millions of dollars and he collected a bunch of people, and then you came back to work on Monday and he had Aquaman done. You know, the script had to be turned in. And then after the script had to be, before even the script had to be turned in, there had to be a long discussion about what this movie was going to be. And then they wrote the script. And then they do multiple drafts of the script to get it right. And then they get onto set with the script, and James Wan has to start making decisions. And I'm sure there's some people at Warner Brothers, like like up in the ivory tower of Warner Brothers, trying to figure out what they're gonna do with Aquaman, who are getting on James Wan's back about this, that, and the other. And I don't even know where. I started this movie, first 30 minutes or so, saying, oh my god, some studio head ruined this movie. James Wan probably had a otherwise decent idea of what he was going to do, and some studio head got in his face and said, you're going to have to do it this way, we're not letting you just freelance on Aquaman. But the more and more the movie goes along, the more and more you realize that there were horrible decisions being made all up and down the board, and it can't just be some soulless executive at Warner Brothers who thinks that they know how to fix Aquaman. I mean, this is absolutely 100% James Wan's fault as well. So if I'm gonna make a list of all the things that went wrong with this movie at various points in time, the directing, the producing, the writing, the cinematography at times was lazy. The green screen work was uninspired. The special effects at times were incredible and at times were like an afterthought. Sound mixing was all over the fucking place. But decision. It was like literally decisions that I just couldn't get past. Like, at times when they're underwater, they have all this reverb and echo and make it sound like, like the voice is projecting underwater is being hit by some sort of disturbance, which it was. If you were underwater and you tried to speak, you would hear the sound of like the air hitting the water. So at some times they had that sound effect down when people were speaking, but other times it was just like you were in a dry room with no problem. And most of the time that happened in the same scene with two different people who were talking to one another. And one of them had the echoey reverb, I'm talking underwater voice, and one of them sounded like they were inside the, Grand Ole Opry, and it doesn't make any damn sense. There's no point in time where I said to this movie like, oh, they really tried their best. Like, no, there was an epic failure at the very beginning levels of just like I struggled to find one thing that this movie did right. I mean, I guess if I have to pick something, I like Willem Dafoe. This isn't a particularly good Willem Dafoe role. He's not, incredibly good in this, but I enjoy him, so there's something. I mean, really, like, on top of the list of things that I've had, casting is yet another problem, because I don't understand where the hell you get Dolph Lundgren from. I don't understand what the point of having Nicole Kidman being the only person who doesn't age one bit at all during the course of this movie. Patrick Wilson must have won a card game or something like that, because there's no way you see a camera test on Patrick Wilson and say like, oh yeah, he's the guy who's going to get us to the finish line. They got Eric Stoltz out of Back to the Future, so don't tell me you can't recast Patrick Wilson after 2 days of bad dailies. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who does Manta in an otherwise completely unnecessary role. I mean, like, everything... It really felt like during the entire course of this movie, they were coming up with new ways that they're like, it's like, oh, the studio said that Manta isn't doing well enough, so we're gonna make King Orm the villain instead. And James Wan's like, well, we just shot all this Manta stuff. It's just like, just get rid of him. We don't need him anymore. Like it's really shockingly like low grade. I feel there's people who make movies on YouTube who would make a more compelling and interesting movie than this. They literally, I could have walked in the theater, they could have played that one scene from Entourage of the Aquaman movie that Vinny Chase is starring in, where he's running down the pier and then he jumps in and the projector cuts out, and they could have gone to credits and it would have been a better movie than this Aquaman was. It's a new low, and with the DC movies in particular, they've been so terrible, they've been so bad, and every once in a while you get like a little tease that they might have figured it out. Like, I remember when I saw Wonder Woman, and I said, well, now what the hell are you gonna do? Because you have all these horrible people who don't deserve to be the DC cinematic union. Affleck is not working out, Henry Cavill's not working out, like, you get Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, and Patty Jenkins, who all have star-making performances in a great superhero movie, and then you come right back with terrible superhero movies like Justice League and Batman and Superman and Aquaman. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Aquaman is the absolute worst of them all. It's a new low. They really need to just like, bring back Gal Gadot, sure, but like just cut it. Like, you're done. Just take a long break. Have everyone who is in charge of making decisions for DC at Warner Brothers sit in a corner and think about what they did, and come back in 5 to 10 years when you have a solid game plan. I mean, the reason why Marvel is drinking your milkshake is because they have a plan. They have Feige, who's just sitting there figuring out how all these things are going to tie together, and they don't make changes to the plan. And they get good casting for good actors. I mean, the number of A-list stars who are in... Paul Rudd is Ant-Man, which is a C-level Marvel character at best. There is no Paul Rudd level talent in this movie, and I'm not saying Paul Rudd is all that. I just think that he's perfectly fine, but he is a better actor than every single other person who is in Aquaman. There's not anyone even close. And the fact that you can't get a member of the Justice League... you can't get good actors to play members of the Justice League. It's just... I don't even know where to begin. Is that me slowly drowning, or is that the leaderboard? First time I saw a movie at the Parkway Theater in Baltimore, Maryland. Highly recommend. Go check out. Must see. If you're anywhere on the East Coast, go find some time to go to the Parkway Theater in Baltimore, Maryland. And it's a good thing. They did the Maryland Film Festival there, so it's worth seeing. On to the movie leaderboard. I'm already telling you, I'm not even going to think about this too hard. It's the worst movie I've seen this year by a lot. I'm flustered thinking about how terrible this movie was. Another thing that really bothered the hell out of me was that they kept saying half-breed to the one person in the movie who is obviously of a different race than everybody else. Talking like it's so, every once in a while they seem like they have an idea like of some sort of reason why they're doing the things that they're doing, like the pollution in the water and blah blah blah, and then it's just like some jerk off move towards nothingness. If I had to give a rating to Aquaman, I will give it a 2. It's the only thing Aquaman is worth is having it on mute on Netflix. No, or steal it, really. It doesn't even deserve the 8 cents or whatever it'll get from a Netflix stream. Just steal it and watch it on mute. And, I don't know, listen to music and get high or something like that, because it's really not worth spending much time, thinking... I mean, I wouldn't recommend watching it at all. But, I mean, if you feel you need to, Like, definitely don't have the volume on. Definitely don't pay close attention to it, because none of it's going to make sense to you. This is a movie designed to make a lot of money overseas by people who don't speak English. So don't worry about what's being said, because Warner Brothers didn't. So why should you? Anyway, that's it for me. You can find more at my website, CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoryBakerFilm, at LegendsCB5 on Twitter and Instagram. I have another review that is going to come out later this week for Vice, which I saw on New Year's Eve because I had to get the awful taste of Aquaman out of my mouth, and Vice was the thing that I chose. I mean, there's many things that could be better at getting the awful taste of Aquaman out of my mouth, like bleach or cyanide tablets, but I didn't have any of that available. So I saw Vice instead, and that review will be up later this week. Any other movies you want me to see before we get into heavy award season here, let me know below, and I will definitely go check it out. Like this video if you liked it, or thumbs down if you actually think that DC is doing this right. Anyway, that's about me. If you don't mind, I'm going to walk into the ocean until I drown forever. Good night.